So the other day I was doing something and then I just all of a sudden hear cat food is a scam. And I kind of just ignored it or whatever. They said something about, speak of the devil, huh? No, but so I heard cat food's a scam. When you buy food like that, that's more for you than it is about them. Oh. He needs all the attention. Yeah, but so I randomly heard cat food's a scam. When we buy things like Fancy Feast, that's more about the owner feeling good about themselves. That's more about us than it's about the cat. And that's one of those things that, I kind of just put it off in my mind. It's one of those things that you hear and you're just like, wait a minute. There's probably something to that, but, I probably shouldn't even get involved. But one of those things like space isn't real, or like Pythagoras didn't exist. And so, but for some reason, I kept thinking about it. It's one of those things that just stuck out to me. And I was like, you know what? How would that even make sense? Because, okay, so I kind of spoil my cat, I buy him probably more than is necessary, and I recognize that. I know that I kind of give him more than is needed or whatever. And so, but I kind of thought about that, and I was like, how is that about me? And, because I'm trying to make sure that he survives, and is happy. And so that's about him. Like, I'm not doing it to make myself feel better. And so, but I thought about it because I spend probably around $100 every 2 weeks on cat food, right? And like that's spoiling him and stuff. So when I think about, okay, why would they say that cat food is a scam? And so I'm always trying to save money. But I also was curious, okay, there totally is something to this whole cat food is a scam thing. But okay, it's not pet food. Don't get it twisted with pet food. We're talking about cat food in particular is a scam. Okay, how is that true? Oh, okay. I'm not trying to put conspiracies out in the world, and I'm just going to say some things about cats and cat food that are relevant, that I feel like people might not necessarily think about. So I'm not telling you how to feed your cat or when to feed your cat, but it's something to consider and something to think about. Because, okay, why would they even say that cat food is a scam, and why would Fancy Feast be a scam? Okay, so this is only true for cats, and it's only true for outdoor cats, like cats that go inside and outside. Okay, so cats are like crazy biology things, right? Like they're optimized little hunting packages. They can survive off of not that much food at all. But what's weird about that is we often wonder, what does our cat do when it's outside? Or what does it do all day? Does it just sleep and then it eats and then it lays down and then it just like plays with the ball for like maybe 3 minutes and then it goes to sleep and then like... But so what I'm pretty sure they do outside all day is they eat insects and like maybe even mice, or like they just eat things because biology is keeping them alive, because they're organisms and they're living things. Living things have drives to survive. If you stop feeding your cat, but he's an outdoor cat, he's going to go outside, he's going to get off his ass, and he's going to go find himself food. And he's good at that. This little asshole will go out and he'll find a spider in like 20 seconds. They'll eat spiders, they'll eat ants, I'm sure. Like, they just eat things. Like, I'm pretty sure they just are eating insects all day. And so what's interesting about that is, I'm pretty sure that keeps them alive, technically. Or they could live off of that. Or nature has trained them to live off that. Okay, so when we, I think what it comes down to is we're kind of conceited or, wrong when we assume that we keep these animals alive. You know what I mean? Like, these animals existed before us, and or they can exist and live without us. Like, sure, we've domesticated them, but cats in particular are very independent. And if it goes outside, it largely takes care of itself. Any food that we give it is extra. And so it's interesting to think about, we're actually pampering our animals, or we're making sure that they're fine, right? But nature won't guarantee that they're fine. And so it's weird because if we feed them at all every day, that's better than nature will provide. So in nature, things are used to going through periods of feast and famine. Like, cats are used to not eating every day. Us feeding our cat every day is a luxury. That's us giving a life that they would never have in nature. So kind of what that means is you could feed your cat just this crunchy little meal balls. That's like what we give our cat. Like, that's what I think of it when we give them the little crunchy foods, little protein pellets. But yeah, like those are like, it's kind of interesting because when you look at it, you're like, okay, that sucks to eat that every day as a food, but you know what? It's an animal, so we don't care. We just give it to them because. But you know what's weird about that is I think that those things are just to make sure that they survive. I don't think they're supposed to live off those little nutrient pellets. I think they live off the insects and everything outside, and those little meal balls that we give them are just to make sure that they survive. Just to guarantee their survival. Just to where if they don't hunt successfully for whatever reason, one day they can come home and, oh, we have food for them. Oh, but it kind of just sucks and it's just these little nutrition balls. It's like, so it's weird to think about that, okay, so if they can just survive off little protein pellets, and eating spiders all day, okay, then that means that when you give them fancy feasts, that's like literally extra. That's like, okay, so you giving them regular food is extra, but now the fancy feast is like really extra. And so it's like $1 a can. So like when you go in and you spend $1 on that, okay, that's technically literally a waste of money. But what's interesting about that is it's a waste of money because cats also don't totally have emotions like we do. And so what's interesting about that is this goes back to this being about cat food, because this doesn't work for dogs. Dogs, I think, do have emotions closer to us, but cats don't. That's a misconception. I think that these cat food commercials and these cats loving up on you and you giving them fancy feasts, that's playing in to, and that's kind of brainwashing people into thinking that cats have emotions that they don't. Because I don't think they really care about treats or fancy feast type stuff. Because they're not struggling to eat. They're not struggling to survive. They're probably full and satisfied every time you give them a treat. And they're just like... It's like giving a kid a bunch of ice cream and they're like, oh, thanks. Like, I'm full and I don't want to eat anything, but thanks for the giant ice cream sundae. You know what I mean? Like we're giving them way more than they want or need. And so what's weird about that is we might even be setting them up for failure in the future by doing that, by pampering them. And so when we make cats strictly indoors, we might even be like slowly taking away their ability to hunt and fend for themselves. And so I don't think that's good. I think that we should keep our cats like indoor, outdoor, so that they can keep themselves alive. Because I do think that they go outside and they provide for their needs all day when they eat all these things. What it comes down to is I think that a cat could like eat a moth and a spider, and it could be good for like 4 days. Because biology has set them up. You know how they just sleep all the time? Okay, they could eat a spider or eat a moth, then sleep, and then, that's their life. And so they can like survive for like 4 days off just that. Except for they don't have to because there's spiders everywhere. There's moths everywhere. And so I don't think they're struggling at all for food in that aspect. They hunt all day just for fun. They're eating, they're like us. They eat in abundance for fun because they can and it's around them. And that's like what they do for like entertainment also. So they just do it out of habit. They're probably not used to having such abundance to where they can hunt all day successfully. And since they can do it, they just do it. I realized that because the other day I just watched my cat like swat a moth out of the air and just eat it. And I was just like, oh, okay. But then you got to think like in nature, that's what keeps them alive. And their bodies are used to like surviving and thriving off of just a little bit, and then they'll like sleep, and then they'll just like they're very conservative with their energy and like being able to survive off of like a little bit. And it's weird to think that if we feed them every day, we're totally already giving them way more than they need. And since we give them way more than they need, they don't totally care about treats and being pampered like that. They just see it as like, oh, this person keeps me alive, like, but not even totally. Like, we think that we keep them alive, but they keep themselves alive. We're just like making sure that they don't, like, we're just their backup. We're their like lifeline or their survival like fallback or whatever. But like we don't really keep them alive in the way that we assume. And so it's funny that there's like this little thing that we assume that they need us, but it's like, no, nature does its own thing. We're just here and we just have our egos and we just think that we're important or necessary or whatever. But it's like, and like I said, yeah, sure, we domesticated them. And this isn't totally true for all animals, obviously. This is just a cat's thing, but it's like, but yeah, it's just weird to think that, they're totally great hunters. They totally don't need us. And they totally don't even really have emotions like dogs or like us. Because they keep themselves alive, and because we're just like the fallback, it's like they don't have the emotional attachment like dogs, and they also have a different relationship to food and a different relationship to us because of the food thing. And so it's weird because, yeah, I'm not saying to like stop feeding your cat or whatever, but I'm just saying it's definitely something to consider, like that you probably don't have to give it as much as you do. Like, I'm talking about like in theory, in nature, nothing is ever like guaranteed food all the time. You know what I mean? But I mean, I guess it's different in today's society. Like if you're a stray cat just living on the streets of America somewhere, I mean, probably still eat every day. But I'm just saying, yeah, cats eat, and we probably don't even see it half the time. So yeah, they might eat every day because of modern society, whether it's because of us or not. Like, they might be able to eat every day just because there's insects everywhere. And so, I'm not saying you should, like, quit feeding them, but it's like, they probably don't even need the food that we give them, possibly. And so that's how cat food could be a scam. Like, if they really did just feed themselves, and we didn't actually have to give them food. Like, if certain corporations have just kind of, like, brainwashed us into thinking that. Because just imagine that. Imagine if, let's say, there are people used to having cats, and, like, the cat will just go outside and, like, what if there was a time where we had cats, and, like, they would just go out and they'd fend for themselves, and we wouldn't even think about having to feed them, and we just kind of coexist. And it's like, that's why it goes outside, because we know that it has to fend for itself. But it's just funny to think of a world, like, before cat food. Like, imagine if cat food, like, isn't, like, needed to keep them alive. So just think about, like, if cats just, like, live on their own. There'd be a board meeting where somebody's like, I have an idea for a product. I know what we could do. We could convince people that their animals need them to feed them. We could create cat food, and we could convince people that their cat needs food. Like, they might not know that their cat keeps themselves alive, because, you know, we never see our cats eat. They just go outside and they just do it in the shadows, or they just do it in secret or whatever, but they obviously keep themselves alive. We could make just like little protein pellets, and then we could tell people that cats need it, and they would buy it all the time because they would want to keep their cat alive. They would think that their cat needs it. We could just create cat food, and they would just buy it. And it's like, we just are creating a product out of nothing. It's like, we create the need, the supply, and the demand. It's just weird because I swear the corporations, like, know things like this. Like, the government and companies, or people that run companies, are smarter than the majority of people, or like the mainstream, or like, you know, or the majority of society is just kind of like these just dumb potential customers. And so it's funny because I've noticed that all sorts of products, they take advantage of people's ignorance about things. This cat food thing, I was like, you know, I've thought too much about this, because, you know, I tried not to think about it, and then all of a sudden I was thinking way too much about it. I was like, this totally could just be one of those things where corporations either just like create a whole false thing, or they just play into like people's like emotions about things. Like, oh, they want their cat to like them. Everybody loves food, so if we just make this food, I mean, their cat will eat it. And it'll seem like they enjoy it, but it's just like, you know, just because they're eating it doesn't mean that they need it or that they love it or whatever. But I just swear that so many products play off people's ignorance about things. But see, advertisements are also there to kind of like sway you into thinking those false kind of ideas. Like, I think the cat food thing, like, they really want to drill into our minds that cats need us, but they also have emotions like love and jealousy and all these things. Like, and they do, obviously, to some extent, but it's not attached to their like food and their survival. And it's like, I don't know, but it's just all the time I realize that's how or why people make products, or that's how people make companies or become rich, is they just find some stupid thing to exploit about either somebody's ignorance, or they play off of something, or I don't know. Like I said, I'm not trying to affect any of your feeding habits or whatever, but it's stuff to consider, you know. Because, yeah, we might be... I think that it's a good balance of keeping them able to hunt and taking care of them. Like, when we just give them, like, a little bit every now and again, or just, like, you know... But I think if you totally do it and you keep your cat inside, I think if that happens for too many generations, then, yeah, they'll just adapt to being these adorable, useless things. And they won't be able to hunt. And it's like we almost assume that cats are these fluffy, useless kind of things. But no, they are actual, like, predators and hunters, and they're like really successful at it. Like, they're total predators, and that's just in their DNA. Yeah, like like if you have a cat inside, like, one of the reasons it's probably trying to break out is probably because it wants to go feed itself. You know what I mean? And so, yeah, as long as they go outside, they can totally just, you know, normally figure it out. They're really smart in that aspect or whatever. But So yeah, it's definitely something to think about. Anyways, stay safe. Be nice to each other. Have a good one. Deuces. Pythagoras didn't exist.